That's,
I don't look at it. I was
once
for
I
a
get
while.
started
It's so
on one, I'll
negative.
read them just so I can see what people are saying. But-
Yeah, I just quit looking at it.
Okay.
Well, everybody ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the City Commission budget session for July the 13th. We're anticipating getting this completed in 2 days, but if it takes 3, so be it. I think our first one at 1 o'clock is LCDC, Steve Jack, unless, Paul, you've got something you...
Nope, I think we're ready to get into it.
Okay. Steve, want to grab a chair? Should be in your front flyer.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Mayor and members of the commission. I'm going to leave my big presentation until next week. We sent in the PowerPoint, so we've got some good news to share. Things seem to be progressing in the economy and in the city. As you know, our request is based on a formula that goes back to maybe a dozen years or so, based in part on population of each of the communities and valuation. And so last year, or the current year, 2016, we are receiving in quarterly payments $47,394 from the city of Leavenworth, and our request for 2017 is an increase of $473 to a total of $47,867. The total funding from the cities should be $81,816, which is up about $1,500 since we index it to property valuation and population. I might mention that we had our budget hearing with the county yesterday, and it appears that the base request, which is slightly less than the $81,816 that collectively the cities contributed, $79,218. It's been that way, that number, for several years, and so we've asked for an increase from the county to match what the collective cities do. So since we're close, the OCD and me said, let's just all do the Port Authority 81,000, the county 81,000, and then by formula the cities a total of 81,000. So anyway, that's our request. Again, it's an increase of just under $500 based on the certified population, which, by the way, according to the state Department of Administration Division of Budget, now lists Leavenworth at an even 36,000, just right at 36,000, which is an increase from last year's 35,891, and valuation went up. The valuation is certified a year later, so we were comparing 2014 numbers to 2015. It went up 198,767,953 to about 202,504,000 in 2015. So those two factors bumped it up just slightly.
Just take a minute to remind everybody that this funding used to come from the general fund in about, I think it was 2013. Through budget constraints, we shifted it to the economic development portion of the CIP's sales tax fund. It was sort of offset with the loss of the economic development administrator. It was sort of a one-for-one swap, and we've been funding it out of that ever since. One change that we made internally to the budget that won't affect any funding, but affects sort of our ability to disperse that funding, is we've moved the economic development money from the CIP fund into the operating fund. There's no changes, but anytime we spent that money, we had to do an operating transfer and then spend it out. This gives us a little more transparency. It's all in one fund. We're not doing any transfers, but there's no changes to that. It's just how we're doing it internally.
Okay.
Any questions?
No?
I know that we pay it quarterly, and I know that went back to something that happened in 2009 or 2010. want them to justify, and I know that we get quarterly reports, et cetera, and I think we should continue doing that. But should we just pay it in one lump sum?
It was really the direction of the commission about wanting to see more of the scorecard, wanting to see more measurables, and wanting to get more information. I think LCD has done that. I think they give very good reports. They could continue doing the quarterly payments, but we do quarterly update, and then on the following meeting, there's an authorization to give 1/4 of the money following the quarterly update. It's really up to you. For us, it doesn't really matter how we pay it.
So we have to authorize it each time then?
Each
quarter?
quarter, we have authorized payment to LCDC. We could do it twice a year in 2 chunks. We could do it once a year, however you choose to do it.
We used to do it once a year.
We used to do it once a year.
We'd authorize it and pay it.
Right, for the calendar year, and we could
Yeah.
certainly do
I
that.
could see it if you got interest worth collecting at the bank.
Right.
I would argue that part with Commissioner Preisinger, but the way it is now, it's just, let's do it.
Just do once?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. And I would
Yeah.
still
And it
like
might-
the quarterly reports, and I
Yeah.
think for your benefit too, because the community needs to see what you do, and that's to me, that's the main purpose of that, because, we participate with LCDC. But, yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, like I said, you've made the good faith effort, and that's what it was. It was to show that good faith effort, and I have confidence in it, so I don't object either.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
When would you like to start that?
About 2 years.
We
5 years
started
and
with the
paid
2017 budget year, so we pay for 2017 in January.
Yeah, okay. That'd be great. Tonganoxie and Baser pay in one lump sum. It's a smaller lump, or smaller sum, but Lansing is 6 months, so quarterly helps us a little bit. And I might also mention that we have been quite a bit more aggressive with the private sector. We had dipped down during the recession. In 2010, we had 52 members, and we were collecting just over 35,000. We have increased that in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, now 16. We're at just over 47,000, and hope we'll finish the year at 48,000.
Good.
And have maybe I think we have 71 members, so 75. And what that does is it's a kind of confirmation by the private sector that we're doing a good job, but we have more private sector contributors, because they don't have to do that. They don't get the same kind of networking benefits that you would from a chamber to sell their particular business. So we think that's good, and then that takes some of the pressure off us coming to the county or the cities asking for additional resources.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is probation. Megan?
It should be in your front cover.
This is Ms. Barry, she is our business manager. So, welcome on this gloomy day. As the city's probably very aware of, there's been some significant leadership changes over the last year. When I met with you, ladies and gentlemen, last year, I was still the interim director at that point, managing and taking over a budget that Ms. Hunley had prepared and had been approved. So at this point, I've had, again, some leadership roles, but effective in May, the county did appoint me as full-time director for the agency, and then shortly thereafter asked me to submit budgets, to be exact 8 days after that. So what we've really done is we've really kind of just used a lot of the same proposal as the year prior to that, because none of that was ever actually able to be acted on. But throughout the course of being involved with the agency for the past year, there was some significant deficiencies that needed to be addressed. One of those being the amount of work that was actually being conducted by the director, by Ms. Hunley. I was not able to perform as the 50% salary that was coming out. So that is why this year we are asking for a part-time officer to help alleviate some of that workload. Also, with the change in law that was effective on July 1, I predict there to be an increase in caseload size due to the dollar amount and the 5-year look back on theft cases. So there'll be an increase in cases that actually stay in municipal court that will not be dismissed to be refiled in district court, as well as the increase in charges that are a second marijuana conviction. They will also stay in municipal court. So there will be an increase in caseload size. I've done a rough estimate even just this morning. Just for this year, we dismissed 10 cases that were dismissed to be refiled, that based on the current law that has changed will now stay in municipal court. So there's going to be some changes. Again, that was just for the city of Leavenworth. I didn't tally the rest of the cities. It was just for the preparation for today's meeting. So there is going to be some changes. I know Mr. Hurley in the past has said that services have not changed. The services that our office provides has not changed. It's just now being able to provide it at its full level, hopefully with being able to get this part-time officer rather than having a part-time person still do the entire workload. So there is an increase, and there's an increase to all of the cities this year, but because Leavenworth is the largest city in amongst this agency, Leavenworth unfortunately does get most of the hit for that. Leavenworth does supervise 573 cases of the caseload of the 900 for city county.
Mayor and Commissioner, I just want to note that this is a tough budget for our staff to get our hands around because of the changes that have gone on and the uncertainty of the county. We don't really know year to year for the last 3 years what's going on, who's overseeing certain things. It's kind of a wait and see approach through no fault of Ms. Waters, but it just says what it is. This is a pretty substantial increase through the past multiple years. We fund this through our alcohol tax at about $56,000 a year, give or take. This is the first year that it's requiring a pretty large general fund subsidy of about $24,000 in order to meet our budget request of $80,000. I did have multiple meetings with Megan. There are definite increases in health insurance. These employees are county benefits. County has experienced a lot higher increases in health insurance than the city has over the last couple of years by quite a bit, but they're county employees, so they're subject to county benefits. This is a contract we sign in December each year for the following year, so this budget, this number would not exceed this, and it's our best guess, but they are county employees. It's traditionally a pass-through about what they request, but it is a tough budget to figure out what's going to happen the following year.
So they're asking for $80,781. Last year it was,
56,000.
yeah, 24,000.
Is that only in your personnel that's changing? Is that the majority of what's affecting it?
There's some small other changes. The person that does some of our facilitation of our programs has asked for a raise. We are looking
personnel,
at
yeah.
trying, well, they're not under our salary, it's actually through a contract that we have with them. So it's more for contractual services that we have.
Okay.
Again, we do everything by hand, so every client that we meet with is written on a file. We've been looking at trying to become more modernized by having a computer system to keep track of all of those things. So I have researched and found some computer programs that do have monthly service charges with that. So that's kind of also figured in there. I think the one that we found was $50 a month per user, and that was waiving all fees as far as setup fees and everything because they're based out of California, and we would be the first Midwest agency that they would have their program involved in. So there's training fees that were also waived on that. And like Mr. Kramer said, the biggest hit is the insurance. And from the conversations that I've heard through the commissioner meetings over the past couple of days, also they're looking at increasing at a potential 30% over the 19% that they quoted us. So to increase deductibles, to reduce costs out of pocket. So again, like Mr. Kramer said, it is very hard to anticipate and predict a budget when you don't really know. So we're doing a lot of predictions at this point.
Megan, just so I'm reading this correctly, on your personnel expenses, it shows your salary and then a court service officer too at almost double yours. Is that a single person?
The court services officer position is a full-time position, where my salary is only 50% paid for out of city county, because
Okay.
I am also 50% director of the adult felony probation
Okay.
department for community
That
corrections.
answers my question. Thank you.
And also as well as the business manager. She is also paid 50% out of both the community
Okay.
corrections and the city county probation.
Megan, have you gone to the county commission yet? Have you had your?
I have met with Mr. Hurley. I met with him, I think on the 30th of June. And I've not met with him since. They've not asked to have an additional meeting.
City county probation, just clarification, is just the cities, it's municipal court. The idea at some point was to do sort of combined services, get economies of scale, but they don't handle, city county probation is just the city's municipal courts. The county's in there in the title, but it's a little misleading. So it's probation services for the 4 cities.
Okay.
I don't know where they came up with the title. It was way before my time.
Any other questions? How do y'all feel about the increase?
The biggest thing that concerns me is the amount of turmoil in that operation over the last 3 years about what are we getting. I mean, we were introduced to a new director and then a new deputy director, and then that's gone. So, I mean, just given year to year, I'm not sure what the structure is going to be, and hopefully there's some stabilization. If not, I mean, I would point out that now that the request is 80,000, that's enough for the city to fund our own probation.
Right, I was gonna
I mean,
suggest that.
Not that the service hasn't been there, but the lack of control over the last couple of years has been very evident. I mean,
Right.
we are subject to whatever is decided at the county.
I was
That's
gonna
right.
suggest that as soon as you got done, was
Yeah.
possibly the city just embarking on the city's own, where
Yeah,
we have,
I'd rather look
where
into
we have
that as
control
well.
of it. And maybe give it some levelness of operation.
If we did that, would we have to move that office physically down here, or would we have to pay rent at the?
Well, we'd have to look into that. I mean, if we occupied office that we don't currently have, we would have to pay rent. I don't know if there's room in Debbie's in the municipal court office area or not. We'd have to look into that, but I imagine we could find something,
Yeah.
or we wouldn't have to rent extra space. We haven't gone down the road of exploring that real heavily, but it's an option now with the amount of money that's being requested.
My suggestion would be let's explore it, see where we're at.
For this year, or look at?
Oh, I'm
do it
thinking yet for this year.
I mean, do it starting
I
January.
mean, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
is-
the motivation of the increase of their health insurance alone is worth
Yeah.
looking into that, because,
Yeah.
just to pull apart one, but actually, really, I'm sharing the same concern as Paul at this point, the change in staff, and there's been, it's come to us and we feel like, well, we need this position, we have to do it, but there's always been that undercurrent of lack of control and, knowing that things were not.
Yeah, in reality,
Healthy
all they're
there.
furnishing is the office space.
And this is not any disparaging
No,
on
it's
you.
not.
And
don't
It's
take it
more,
that way.
it's more the system that we're
And I know
under,
Mr.
yeah.
Kramer and I talked about that, and I did throw out the suggestion, much like our community corrections budget has an advisory board, or members of the community that have says in
Right.
budgets are participating in that. And I even proposed that to potentially having all 4 cities have a say in there, because as a person that prepares the budget, and it was very difficult to be thrown in September of 2014 going, what do I do? Again, where the community correction side is so very structured on the expectations and the checklists and who to report to, although yes, we are so governed under financially through the county, the funding sources is through the city, is through the state of Kansas.
Right.
So I completely understand that. I know Mr. Kramer and I did talk about the proposal of having, again, city county probation pull away from community corrections again, to be able to have its own agency, to then maybe develop this advisory board that, again, would allow more say from the cities, because I mean, that's been what I've tried to argue from day one, is how much involvement are the cities supposed to have to know what's going on. Again, that was also why I tried to propose the idea to get a computer program so then we can report to the cities of this is how many DUI cases we're getting. This is the services that are being provided on the X number of cases so that you can anticipate for years forward because it is so out there. So I understand the confusion and conflict with it completely. So like I said, I guess I was asked to fill in a position and asked enough questions that it got me spun a little bit. I've got positions taken away and then reappointed because the right questions are being asked at the right time. So,
In your opinion, if it would come under the city, how many personnel could one person do it? Could, with all the support, everything, could it be a one-person job, two-person, 1.5?
That would be against however your agency would like to develop its policies. For our current policies, which are still being rewritten at this point, our staff are not allowed to see anybody without another support staff being there in case there's conflict. But also, we do also perform UAs. So if there to be that safety and security that,
So it
there's
would
no
take two
conflict.
people.
So I would say potentially 2 people. Whether those would have to be full-time people, that again would be what the city would expect that the services in that agency to look like. Again, we'll have to go off of policies, location, the amount of time spent in court, and the amount of time that's going to be needed to do the work.
And
I know for the city of Leavenworth, I do more work for the city of Leavenworth than my full-time officer does for each of her other 3 cities.
Understandable.
So, and that's just to do the managing of the court systems.
Right.
I run all the driving license records and present those to the court the very next day. For the city of Lansing and for the city of Basel, they run their own. I do all of the certified conviction requests for all 3 cities. They're provided to the officer for the review of those things. So there's additional clerical things that are done is the facilitator over the Leavenworth city that would potentially need to be a full-time position.
And a statewide, the director position, approximately a $65,000 a year job, approximately.
I would say that's very high.
What?
I would say on average, what I would be looking at would be, from the research that I've done, anywhere between 47 and 65, depending on experience.
And then, what I'm thinking, I know the increase is quite a bit, 24,000, I understand that, but could you do this for 80,000? And that's what we're asking you to do, because you need a director, you want somebody with experience, and so you're going to pay mid to higher on the pay scale, plus you need some support, you need your office, supplies, etc. There is some commingling of, not necessarily funds, but of supplies that everything be completely separate. That at 80,000 could, plus when you need another person, because you need 2 people there every time you're visiting a client, we've been knocking on the door of 95 to 110. And that's,
Well, if you went with 2 part-time, that would be much cheaper than 1 full-time. And that would cover you on vacations. Otherwise, you'd be locked down for a week or 2 while one was
Yeah.
on leave.
Yeah, you'd have to
Those
give me
are
about a week or
details
2
that
to
I
explore
don't-
it a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think we need to
I don't
look at
think
it
we
and then,
can get into
Yeah.
it.
I think
I agree.
I think just from just listening and what it's going to be close, I think we're going to be grappled with that, but I honestly, I'd like to look at it. I really
Yeah.
would like to
Just
see,
look at it and see.
Well, if the numbers come close, and it's a matter of which one's going to get you more bang for the buck.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's just,
I agree. I think that we should look at it. I think it'd be tough to pull the trigger between now and January, once you get everything evaluated and put a plan in place. But if the numbers look good, I think it should come back to us. And if we decide to do it, maybe we do it mid-year or we
Well, it
do it
could be,
January
yeah.
1st, 2018, and basically put the county, let them know too. We shouldn't pull the rug out from underneath, the other entities on December 10th or something. Here's what we're going to do in 3 weeks, because it'll take that long to evaluate. But I think it's something we should consider.
I think I can have an answer to you pretty quickly.
okay.
Some more information.
okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Megan.
We're right on schedule. Police Department, Pat?
Mr. Mayor and Commission, having spent the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks preparing the budget, there are no discernible changes or significant changes. We have concentrated on making adjustments internally to the budget where we were over in a particular line item. We adjusted money throughout. There is one significant change in terms of personnel that I would visit with you about. In August of this year, the school resource officer federal grant expires. And
August 2000,
this year.
This year,
1 month from
16?
now.
Correct. So that would have been the third and final year of the school resource officer grant. Myself and staff members of the police department have been meeting with staff level at the school district to work out an arrangement moving forward in terms of compensation and figuring that out. The existing school resource officer position that we have is at a 75%, 25% rate. The school district funds 75%, City of Leavenworth funds 25%. The agreement that we reached at the staff level is 50% for the new one. So the second police officer position that would be assigned to the middle school would be at a 50% for each side. But that agreement is only at the staff level. The school district, Mr. Gullett and his staff are presenting that to the school board for approval. That's acceptable to the police department. We've worked out that and are anticipating that to be approved. But that is one, probably the most significant change to the budget as we move forward. I fully believe that that second position is necessary to be in the school. The grant requirements require us to keep the position for 1 year afterwards, whether or not it is funded in split capacity in the event. So, otherwise, in terms of the overall budget through all 3 or 4 of them, there aren't significant discernible changes. And essentially, it's the same. We moved a little bit around to kind of to make sure. We did focus a little bit on cleaning up some things in terms of like the best example I would give you is the DARE camp. We buy a variety of things for the DARE camp. We buy buses, T-shirts, and stuff for the kids, and that sort of got spread out throughout the budget. So we asked if we could put one line item for the DARE camp, and we've been doing those kinds of things for the police department's budget. Otherwise, in terms of the overall budget, there's no comments, and we can go through it individually if you have specific questions. We can do that and address those.
What's staffing like right now?
We are currently at 4 openings. We have had 3 long-time tenured police officers retire this year. We are under the impression there's 2 additional police officers that are looking for other positions. One's family moved to Indiana. The other one is looking at another law enforcement job in the metropolitan area. So 6 coming up here. We've been averaging about 3 or 4 openings over the last year from last year.
Has your hiring rate improved? I know there for a while we were really
Right,
really hurting in getting applicants.
Right. The last hiring process we had, we did not end up as pleased as we would like. We had a total of 19 apply for the position. By the time that we got to where we are now, which is interview phase, we're down to 3. I think 12 people took the written academic examination and failed it.
Oh, my.
So
It's terrible.
So now we're down to 3, and so we'll keep after it and keep trying. But that is an issue that's gotten a little bit worse in the last 6 months.
Well, I was going to ask you what your feeling was on that. You think what's happening in the nation now is going to be influencing this in the future?
Yes, although we've been through some tumultuous times before in the law enforcement profession during my time, we've kind of been up and down. This feels a little bit different in the last few months. Certainly the events from last week make it feel a little bit different. But the people that apply, that we ultimately hire and talk to, don't seem to be dissuaded by that. It is quality of candidates. We just don't seem to attract a high number of quality candidates. The ratio, it takes us 25 candidates to hire 1 person. That's really what the ratio is. That the testing and scrutiny is really tough. And so that's what we are not any different than any other law enforcement agency in the United States. The last data that I saw, there was something like 82% of the law enforcement agencies in the United States have openings. My colleagues in the metropolitan area, when we visit and talk, say very much the same thing. They have this, that sort of openings, that sort of thing. So the competition is always tough for our profession. We just can't seem to crack that code yet.
What about minority applications?
I feel very strongly that we've made some progress in that area in the last 2 years or so. We have hired several Hispanic police officers and African-American police officers, the latest of which is an African-American female is at the police academy now, graduates on July 29th. So we have made some progress in that area. We've made great strides in female candidates. I lose track, 10 or 12 now, off the top of my head, but we've made quite a bit of progress in that regard. So I'm pretty happy about that. We just would like to get the numbers up across the board.
You guys participate in the military job fairs and stuff? I assume you probably did.
3 or 4 of them a year. We usually do 2. So we have generally experienced a couple of things. It's either a college kid coming out of college or it's somebody getting out of the military. That's essentially where we've gotten the most benefit in the last couple of years. Although there have been some different, but that seems to be the best approach. We work really well with St. Mary's, KCK, in terms of those kids getting out of college and coming. We do internships, and then if they pass, we hire them. So we've had a lot of success in that. Doing pretty good in that regard, but overall, I really would like to see those numbers get up there.
I know that,
Sorry.
I think you've talked about this before, we've talked about it before. Let's say, just hypothetical, FBI agent, been an FBI agent for 25 years, retires from the FBI and says, I would not want to be an 11th police officer. That person has to go through the full police academy in Hutch for 6 or 8 weeks. They don't get any type of pass or an abbreviated course. They have to go through everything as a person straight off the streets that's being trained. Am I correct in that?
If you use that example where they were an FBI agent, yes, I believe that they would have to go through and get state certification. Now, the director of the police academy can make a decision individually on something like that. A much more common example would be if someone were a police officer in another state. They could come here and make certification application, may or may not have to go through the entire police academy.
So there is an option that you can
Right.
abbreviate it or...
But that depends on a couple of things. For example, our police academy is 500 hours, it's 14 weeks. And so if someone from a different state went to a police academy that were, say, 8 weeks long, and the certification were that much different, they may not approve that. It has to be pretty close to what we do to do that. So I guess that's the best answer I could give you. That anybody from Missouri or Nebraska or something like that, we've had really good luck. They've generally done that because it's essentially the same in the
Right.
Midwest. If we got somebody from somewhere pretty far away, those things are a little bit more unique. I don't know that we've ever had a retired FBI agent.
No,
I know when he said, I was like, and the likelihood of that scenario
example.
happening.
In 25 years, you're probably ready to get out.
Yeah.
never could talk
Yeah.
Leonard Ayers and working for him.
It's vying for your job there.
I guess where I was really going with that is you can get some MPs off the 4th. There's a whole, as you well know, your dad was in the business. Just because you're an MP doesn't mean that you're a street police officer. You could be an MP, you could be a corrections officer, but you're an MP by grade. But there are military policemen that are basically street officers, if you will. And as I understand it, if they come in, they start at ground zero too. The state does not give them any type of credit, if you will, for their experience. And I know that's not your decision, I don't think, or the director of the academy's decision. Is that something that you would ask us to lobby for, that the state relook that? Or does that handcuff you at all? If we get a MP that's been an MP for 3 to 6 years, what you would call a trained police officer, not a corrections officer, and say, well, you got to go through all this. Do some of them say, I'm not, feel like I'm going to kindergarten when I should be graduating from high school.
Right. So let's start with the first half of that, which is who makes that decision? I am almost certain that's guided by state statute.
Right.
Not someone's individual decision
I
to just say,
understand.
I'm going to wait. So the answer to that question would be yes, if you're interested, that would be somewhere we need to lobby to have that changed.
But I need guidance from you.
Right.
Is that an issue that you're running into?
The answer to that question is no. About a year and a half or so ago, we hired a guy by the name of Carol Kennedy, who was here in Fort Leavenworth, was getting out, transitioning out. She was a military police officer. She was perfectly willing to go to the police academy and do that. I would tell you, Commissioner, that the principal problem is what you explained, is that although they might be a military police officer, there are different branches contained within that, and it is not as scientific as we are.
Correct.
In the civilian law enforcement world, which is very simply, if you're the police, you're the police. If you work at the Lansing State Prison, that's what you do, and that's what you continue to do. So that's the first half of the question. Are we handcuffed by that? I just don't see that we're I don't see that as problem, 1, 2, or 3 in terms of recruiting.
Okay.
We get success with that if they're getting out. In fact, the gentleman that we hired here in the last couple of months was a Marine for 20 years. He got out. He had been certified over in the state of Missouri, worked over there, but wanted to come closer to Leavenworth, and we hired him here. And so he did not have to go to the academy. We are simply doing the
Transfer the.
local training, transitioning over. He will have to go to the academy for reciprocity school, which is 2 weeks of the difference between Kansas and Missouri.
Sure.
But I wouldn't describe us as
Okay.
being
So, well, I'm definitely not looking for a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. We have too many of those that go on right now. People come up, there's an outstanding solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And we've seen many examples of those over the last few years.
In the fact that you have shortages, and from time to time, like it's been good news and bad news that you haven't. The foundation that you base your policing on is community policing. So, and we've done the trust talks. We've also done with the businesses here, and there's an outcry to see more of that. And right now, and obviously it's going to be difficult for you to do that whenever we have any shortage on that. But how is that really impacting?
Let me frame it to you this way. I do not want either anybody sitting here or anybody listening at home to believe that they are not safe, okay, in terms of the police department, all right? Focusing in a very tight circle, those things that are very critical and dangerous, we are responding to rapidly with all of the right tools and all of the right equipment. Those things that we are really worried about, okay, we are doing really, really well. Okay, get outside of that a little bit and how we're affected. Sometimes we're not as quick to respond to something that's not as critical. It takes us a little longer to do that. So that's how we're affected by that. When we were at the business meeting here a couple months ago, that were some of the citizens' complaints. Somebody broke into my house and it took X number of minutes for the officer to get there. That is, in essence, how we are impacted by shortages and budget impact, that sort of thing. So the critical things we're doing well, what I would describe as non-essential, we get to it, okay? We just don't get to it as quickly, we just aren't as efficient. Someone said, I filed a criminal case and it took a couple of days for the detective to call me. Those kinds of things are what happen when we're affected by shortages. The big thought about policing today is community engagement. Can you get out of the car and walk through the farmer's market? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. We'd love to, but we're busy sometimes and we just can't do that. So in terms of how it manifests itself and how it sort of, where the rubber meets the road, that's where we see folks get a little more irritated with, which we would love to try and solve. It's just a matter of priority and taking care of the bigger critical things, which we're doing really well.
And I'm glad you voiced that, because I've been getting, since we had the business meeting here, approached by and as much as we tried to dispute that, they walked away with, we need 5 more police officers because we're not funded at
Yeah.
what we were in the past. And as hard as you try to shake that out and say, yeah, and there is a difference, and we've had some, budget constraints to do that. And right now, in this information public, we're now back to a level of funding that people are going to see that we were in, 2008, 2009. We've recovered in respect on that. So they see that as an opportunity to possibly increase, so they have the flexibility to be more of a public presence, how people are envisioning, they want to see, their police officer walking into their business or, wherever to come in and do that. And I said, that works really well. How far, the biggest challenge that we have, though, is the general overall recruiting. I said, you've come back to us from time to time, and the level's been really good. We're at this level, and now today you're coming, the last time I think we talked, you were fully at the level you wanted to be. That I remember our conversation, but today we're short-handed again on that. I said, that is our real challenge on that, regardless of how many, the perception officers that we need, that type of thing. I said, we're always facing that. So, and that was my explanation. I said, it's not that we're not willing, in that, and we could look at increasing, but we still face that challenge. Young people are not running up to be police officers in the way that they were in the past on that. And I said, and I think what's also happening out there just exasperates that on that. I said, we lose them to other communities, for larger pay or whatever, and every industry does on that. So, but I still would like to make a long-range goal commitment to at least make a better push for that community policing as we would like to see it to be, so it's going to have to be a long-range
staff
goal. The staff, I know, now we need the staff to where we would really want it to be with, 6 potential officers, just as that, but to maybe look over, even if we do it, like plan for it, arrange over years to get the force where you do have the luxury of getting out of the police vehicle and mingling with the public and that, and doing other things that really reflect community policing that many sides of our community would like to experience. That's it. So we can hash that out later as we go down there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we do look at expanding in the future, Pat has some great ideas on some crime mapping and crime analysis and stuff like that beyond officers and some different.
Oh,
ways of
yeah,
organizing. So
that'd
there's
be
a lot
great.
of things
That'd be
that
The
great.
we'd
things
like to
that we
do.
would love to do.
Yeah,
Be
that I
fully-
think would be effective. So.
If we can get fully staffed, that would be a good start.
Trouble is when you get fully staffed and
But
you
the
start
thing is,
making
he
these
is fully
other
staffed and then you're
commitments,
not.
then you're going to be short-staffed.
Yeah.
to be honest.
It's
Growing
true though,
pains.
yeah, that's always going to be a challenge on that, so.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Anybody have any other questions?
I have one thought. I know 2 years ago, we did away with the parking enforcement officer, and we had
Oh,
to
yeah.
budget-wise, and we knew that there would be a deleterious effect from time to time, and there's possibly been some unintended consequences. And I've been called by some businesses, more on Cherokee than Delaware, but I have people in Delaware talk to me and saying, obviously people should be on the honor system and they should use common sense, but there's a lot of people who aren't using common sense. There's more lofts downtown and people are just parking their cars there. Some people in a loft might own a total of 3 cars, 2 people live there, and a car will be parked there 24/7 for 3 months without even moving. And it does have a negative effect on some businesses. I think the ones on Cherokee, the VFW, the barber shop, Tenpenny, and Gronas. I mean, there's a lot of traffic goes in and out of there quite often. And they're all expressing, look at these cars. Some of these have been here for months, and they live upstairs. And I've talked to the landlord. Landlord says, hey, tough. They don't want to enforce it.
They know that nobody's
So
enforcing it, so.
I
they
I
don't
would
care.
like to think about part-time parking enforcement officers, maybe a shared position, 30, and I'm just throwing out stuff here now, 30 hours a week, and, you know, how do you find somebody like that? Maybe 2 people, 15 hours a week at, I'm just grabbing numbers, $15 an hour. How do you find that? Well, I think you can go to any golf course and you find golf course marshals, reputable people that do things like that. And I don't know if you can have the same for parking enforcement, but I'm wondering if we should bring back some type of parking enforcement. I don't want to get into all the parking lots. We had some parking lots for 2 hours and some were 8 hours. But the street parking at times, I think we're hurt, but some businesses are being hurt because of abuses, but they're not abusing anything because we've removed requirements for parking. I mean, we have a sign up, but we also say we don't enforce it. So
Well,
I
that
don't
would
know.
require someone to call in a complaint to actually a police officer now and say, this person is exceeding the parking time, they've been here from X time, and they would have to start monitoring from whenever to do that.
Yeah, and
I don't know if-
that's not the job of a police officer.
But even when you had the parking person there, this stuff still occurred. I can tell you, I've had 3 cars personally in a loft apartment, and you have to diligently park in a parking lot someplace and walk. You're not going to be able to be in front of the front doors. And I don't know if, I mean, we can talk with community, we can work with the business community through the chamber and stuff like that to do that, to encourage them to be better neighbors and more considerate of each other. To do that, I think you're going to find that it's a handful of people complaining and a handful of people abusing it, just, by living there.
Yeah.
But it's going to get worse because we are having more and more people doing loft apartments there.
Yeah.
And it's, the only way is regular police officer, and to do on all blocks some type of time limits. They'd have to be maybe more consistent than what they are, and make the parking lots all long-term parking.
I
something more
can't agree
consistent.
with calling a police officer on patrol and saying, this
Yeah,
car's been
parking.
parked here for 8 hours. Like,
Yeah.
It's like calling a firefighter and say, I got a cat up the tree.
I think it was better
that's-
when Stacy was down
And
there.
when's the
though,
last time you
because-
saw a cat skeleton in the tree? It'd be my answer. That cat will come down. But I think parking enforcement is separate than a police officer's job. But obviously, it's under the auspices of the police department, do some type of enforcement. I'm just throwing that out, and I'd like to hear what the chief and the deputy chief have to say about that. Just thoughts, just general thoughts. And a part-time position, and I'm grabbing $15 an hour, and because you're not gonna be able to go out and recruit a bunch of people. It's not a big career path.
They'll wait till the part-time person is off.
Well, no, I mean, you're gonna have people abuse it, but if a few
Yeah.
people get slammed a couple times.
Yeah, it's less likely to get.
And with part-time person, you can say, hey, we tried it for 3 months, and if we can kind of correct the problem, and a golf course marshal goes to Florida for the winter or something.
And it really still wouldn't resolve it, because what people do is they wait till whenever, if it goes to
off
evening
duty.
parking at 6 o'clock, and you've got 3-hour parking, you clock 3 hours from that time limit, that you
The
start
problem is
parking
during the
there.
day. The
What
evening's
is-
not the
yeah.
issue. The
What's-
problem's
you
during
asked
the
Pat
day.
what his
The
thoughts are.
The problem's
But
during the day.
it's late afternoon. I mean, but what they'll do is they'll switch from place
Of course
to
they
place
will, but
around
I
the
mean,
street like
but
that.
it's
So
either, I'm
they
just
did that with
asking what
Stacy,
your thoughts are.
it's
Do
just
nothing,
like
leave
crazy.
as is, or is it something should be considered?
There's 2 kinds of parking problems, okay? There's
Yeah.
2 kinds. There's, I parked in a handicap spot, I have a permit, and that person is parking in my spot. There's those kinds that are clear and absolutely simple and easy to deal with. Timed parking, okay? If you're gonna do timed parking, it requires attention, and it requires a lot of attention. It requires that the person check, mark, this car was parked here at this time, come back and check again, and then come back and check again before we would issue a citation. That's how it was, because that's the only way we could successfully get a citation,
Sure.
a person found guilty. My only response to that would be that timed parking requires attention, and it requires a lot of it. I don't know that as I sit here, I would be confident that it would get done what we wanted to get done, which is to move folks along on the street, if it were on a part-time basis. I'm not confident about that would take place. The part-time stuff, you know, the amount of money that can be easily figured out, whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's the sort of philosophical question, are you going to get done what you want to get done, given that it requires so much attention?
Right.
And even still, when Stacy was down there, I would agree with Commissioner Browder, it was better, but we still had the
Sure.
Abuse
the
it.
employee who worked at the business parked on the street, and they would fight to know with each other about it, and then one guy would have a handicap space, but he would park that, I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
you know, I would say what my initial reaction to that would, we would go from right here, we go down a little bit on the problems, I just don't know if that would be worth it, given that what it would.
Do you have any other ideas on how to, and I agree with Commissioner Weekly, you know, when we talked to Chamber and Main Street, but I don't know, are there other ideas?
Well, we could have a conversation about posture with the police department. We generally try and be very cautious on these kinds of things. So let's say that somebody called and said that car has been here for more than 24 hours, okay? We could go down there and if we had time, we could give that caveat, we could go down there, we could take a very aggressive posture, we could tow it and we could ticket it and we could do that. But as many complaints as you're going to get on this side of the argument about that, you're going to get some complaints about that. If you are all in agreement that that's what you want us to do, we can probably do that. But just stand by because your phone's going to ring about the other way, about towing cars. People don't like that. That would be my response off the top of my head about a different idea. It's just a much more aggressive posture. We could just go down there and really crack the whip and give no leeway and see what happens. Folks are not going to be happy about that.
Well, and, you know, you're going, that's extreme measures, and I'm not saying, you know, I mean, that's, you're offering that up as an extreme measure. What if you and the deputy chief and whoever chew on it for a little bit and come back and maybe talk to the city manager, and there might be, obviously throwing this on you right now, and coming up with a solution like that is not good, but maybe there's some ideas. But, you know, I just feel for some of the businesses, and I know some of the businesses are concerned because they, you know, they do feel there's quite a bit of, not quite a bit, but
I have heard that.
certain pockets of mass abuse, and which has
Yeah.
a negative effect on business.
And it is, I think it's hitting Cherokee too, because Cherokee's getting busier.
Yeah.
There's more business and, you know, with the restaurants and things like that. So it was bound to happen. I mean,
It might be good to see how
It-
other communities are doing it too. I mean,
Lawrence
Lawrence
still
has
makes
the-
you pay.
They had the meters, and I understand they.
Yeah,
What are
that-
your thoughts on
meters
parking
cost
meters?
money
Just,
and they-
I think I just, some more of my hair fell out.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Because
when
then
I
that
was a kid.
requires parking enforcement.
Remember when we had meters?
It requires somebody to go collect. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
issue.
They have Lawrence has a whole department there.
No, you can do it
Yeah,
by
'cause
credit
they
card
make money
now.
off it because so many people.
You can do it by credit card
They
now.
actually
That's
don't.
true, but I think
They
the
don't.
parking meter for a credit card
They don't.
is,
They don't make money
substantially
off
more
it.
expensive.
Right,
they
you
don't.
have 20-year payback or something.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of this parking problem is in the minds of the people. Taking Cherokee, for instance, I feel for all the merchants down there. There is adequate street parking. I've never had a problem coming downtown and parking and getting in Groner's for 10 penny. You have two municipal lots directly across the street. There's not enough traffic down there to fill the street and the lots. The problem is, in my opinion, people are too damn lazy to go up 2 blocks to go back to walk.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't want to walk. Go out to Walmart. They'll sit out there and circle that parking lot for half an hour until they can find a place close to the front.
And in Lawrence, you do park. You don't park in front of your business. You park sometimes very far away and walk a couple
Yeah.
of blocks over.
Well, and then again, that's,
You know.
I've always been a,
Yeah,
Yeah, if I owned a
Yeah.
business, I would
And-
make
and
sure
it-
my employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you'd monitor
Yeah.
your own employees.
Parking's for
you
my
know,
customers, not
and-
for them.
Yeah, and the real problem is if it is your employee, sometimes it's, unfortunately, it's the owner. And I think that's where, you know, the business community has got to kind of maybe police each other. I mean, because, and get them to believe that, you know, for the overall health, I said, you've got to park it in the back in the parking lot if you're manning your store for 8 hours a day, so all of our customers can park on the street.
Well, just as an example, right here on the corner of Fifth and Shawnee, the candle store, the
Yeah.
Candle Queen. She parks that little pink car right on the corner
Yeah,
on Fifth.
I know,
daily.
I know who they are,
Number one parking spot
yeah,
on that
yeah.
block.
I know, and it's.
But
it-
she cries, "Man, people won't come in my store because there's no parking."
Yeah, you know, and it's you choose free advertising outside or parking.
No, and I agree with,
Yeah.
if you get a spot 100 yards away from Dillard's at Oak Park on Christmas, you think you've done well, and people will walk that all the way.
Yeah.
They won't walk more than 20 yards in a small town.
Yeah, look how far they walk over the zone of
But
residence.
I really think that the bigger problem is not people staying too long. I think the problem is growing a little bit with the lofts that are downtown, that
Right.
people, you know, if it was a neighborhood, you'd go talk to your neighbor and say, hey, you know, mow your lawn or clean something up, and they'd take care of it. But they are tending to, or not, some of them are tending to just park on the street and they don't drive the car. Park over in the parking lot, and it's no problem. But, I don't know, I'd be interested in hearing if you have any thoughts, and it could be a community involvement, community education, business education, Main Street involved in doing this. We may not be able to
You know,
provide
if
the
we're-
solution.
If we're going to discuss parking, I want to share the pain.
We spent more time here on parking than on policing, than
Yeah.
other policing.
Yeah.
So you've got some guys in Texas today, I understand.
This one, I left this morning for the funeral of Sergeant Smith, who was killed, his funeral, the funeral's tomorrow. They'll spend the night and come back tomorrow after the funeral.
Good.
And a bunch of volunteers, we can only really spare a couple guys to go.
Our thoughts are with all your staff, all your police officers.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next is fire. Chief Birch,
When are we going to take a break after this?
we can take one after this.
Okay, let's do that.
Yours not going to take too long, is it?
Depends on how much talking we do. No pressure do, yeah.
Commissioner, I brought my staff with me for today. Just wanted to, basically, as far as the budget, my operating budget is pretty much stayed almost identical. I did kind of move some stuff around within the budget, trying to make it more accountable, so I knew where I was spending stuff, and then keep that balance out a little bit. So really, not a lot of changes. Overall, I think it went up $3,000. 93% of our budget is salaries, personnel, which is very common. Just to touch on a few things, and the numbers from 2015, that's, you know, we upped our inspections a little bit. We actually did a total of 951 inspections and 278 smoke detector installs. 38, what I call it, events, some type of public relations, and that also would include coming to our station, tours, things of that nature, going to Haven and stuff. And of the 38 events, we had 8,000 contacts from children and adults. Checked a little over 1,500 hydrants last year. Our call volume was 2508, 2,508, of which 70% is EMS type of calls, and that's pretty common too, so we're right at 70%. Our average response time out the door and to the scene was 4 minutes and 11 seconds, which is pretty good. And that's not, you know, you can also look at actual 911, when they say, you know, dispatch, there's some time there. And then once they tone it, there's some time less getting out the door, but our actual drive time is 4 minutes, so that's pretty good, really, so.
It's much better than the ambulances.
Yeah, and that's one reason why agencies, if they're not fire-based EMS, where they actually send the fire for BLS, because they're located in ambulances are always on the move. So that's why we usually respond. Fire service on the EMS side. That's kind of just to highlight a few things. Like I said, not a whole lot's changed. Our main thing is we focus on probably more, because the expense of our stuff is our equipment, and that's why the CIP stuff.
Right, right.
Should have, by the end of this year, we should have 3 new fire trucks. We're looking forward to get some of our equipment in now, so we're doing pretty good.
That's great.
Where you at on personnel?
We're at, we're budgeted. We have 2 people we just brought on, so we're right where we budgeted. We are
Okay.
down 2 total because we lost the VA.
Right.
But we're doing pretty good there.
Okay.
Right where we used to be.
Chief's done a good job reorganizing the admin department. We now have a chief and a deputy chief as opposed to 2 assistant chiefs, and then we have a battalion level of fire marshal and a battalion, and a captain of safety officer.
Okay.
So I think it's a really efficient thing he's done with the administration over the last year.
Sounds good.
You do health inspections too,
Yes.
restaurant inspections and hotel inspections.
Yes, a lot of those are complaint driven on the hotels and stuff.
We don't do an annual hotel certification. Remember, the state did have that in Department of Agriculture, but we got it brought
Right,
back to.
and we do that. They send somebody out a lot of times to the state, so we'll go with them. The majority of our stuff is.
Oh, I thought we had.
We have the authority to do an inspection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And we can revoke a license or put
Yeah,
them.
we've been doing that. We've been pretty active.
Right.
How's our?
When we do something of that nature, though, we do usually have the state person on there with us.
Have you had many hotel complaint inspections?
There is one here in town that we did go to. We've had some like we've been to several times. We've actually went in and did some write-ups and actually took to court.
You weren't here that long before we had 2 decent hotels. We used to have, before we had the Marriott and the Hampton. But based on your experience or based on some of your other firefighters' experience, I've been here a long time, because of the Hampton and the Marriott, has that caused the other hotels kind of raise their game a little bit? All right, that's an
can't
opinion.
say
You can't, okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I'm
We
just
haven't
wondering.
been, we haven't been out there recently.
Yeah.
To the few that we used to go to
Yeah,
more often.
Maybe not as many people are staying there.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been only a year.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
You did great.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
It'll take 5 minutes.
Okay. The fire department, it's the CIP that gets some more.
Gary, when are you going to go up in the fall?
Yeah.
They invite the mayor up to when they built. That's where they built the 3 trucks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you can go up and see them.
Pretty interesting.
That'd be at the, what they call the final. I'm going at the end of this month for the pre-build to kind of go over some design and compartments.
They all gonna be delivered at the same time? The 3 of them?
Yes.
Okay.
They don't take them long to
That
build
would
them
be
because
fun, obviously.
they roll them out.
Pretty neat operation. I'm sure.
Yeah.
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 I've actually never.
Oh, yeah, I bet it is.
Pierce is in Appleton, Wisconsin. I've actually never been there. I've been to Ocala, Florida. They say this is probably one of the premier places.
Well, remind me.
It is. You will like Appleton, Wisconsin. I haven't been.
Have you really?
Yeah, but I did like it, yeah.
On the siren and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, God, okay.
Hey, Chief, if you guys go up there, you gotta take a couple days vacation, just drive over to Sheboygan, right on the lake.
Yes.
And they have fishing charters you take out and catch big lake salmon, lake trout, and it's great. I mean, and it's not that expensive. But, I mean, it's
That's it. Turned it into a boondoggle trip right in.
The previous finance director would be Elizabeth.
I said take a couple days of vacation. It'd be fun to go up there, though, yeah. Get some good sausage, get some good German food.
It's been a while since I've been up to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's just a beautiful state, I think. Yeah, right.
Hey, Marty, how
How
are
are
you?
you, Steve?
No, vanilla, vanilla, that's just lipstick. Smarty pants stuff. Did you have that in your, from high school, sir?
Good looking wildcat.
Yeah, thank you.
It's interesting to see how much longer Snyder stays there.
I'd say this is last year.
They're not gonna put his son in there, are they?
I think he probably wants, but I don't know if he'll do it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I think he'll have input. He didn't have input last time. Right. I mean, kind of quite surprising they brought in Prince and.
Yeah. I heard Eddie say he didn't want to. I heard or he didn't have input.
Yeah, he didn't have input, and he kind of sprung it on him. I'm going to retire, and then he saw what Prince did to the program and came back. So this time, I think they want his input. But I don't think. It's like Bobby Knight's son tried to, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Basketball coach in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey Lisa, how are you? Nancy, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How you doing? Busy, I bet.
You go to any games, Steve?
You know, I haven't for years. When I first got out, I went back in the Michael Bishop era. I had a younger brother that was still there. He was getting me season tickets. I went back for a few years. I haven't made it back. I've been back to one in 5 or 6 years.
We have season tickets. I don't think all of them. My wife actually enjoys them more than me. I like it in October. September's too hot. November, December, I don't like getting frozen. October, it's a nice time to go to football.
You get some of those games, especially the late games, where that Northern
Oh.
Should be.
Well, think about that now when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol.
Round two.
Reprogram my new phone. I just got a new phone.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
First up, we have Parks and Recreation, although numerous divisions. So the first one is the Parks.
Brian, come forward, please. Everything seems to be going well out in the parks. I think they're looking pretty good. One of our big obstacles this year, as you'll recall, was the mow contract. And our mow contractor coming in too low and not really knowing what the scope of the work was, and then obviously having to go to bids that were a little more in tune with what it costs. Those prices have obviously gone up quite a bit over the years, and those who've been on the commission for years know that we kind of had some contractors that stayed pretty low over the years. So that's one area that I know we've made some movements in the budget to try and get a little bit more money in there for the mow contract.
Yeah, you've got, well, the weather is so cooperating with you too and keeping them busier. We're just getting that right amount of rain,
Right.
intermittently, yeah.
Right. With with the contract for this year, you'll recall that it's more, we had to reduce the number of reps that they'll do, which we had this little dry stretch during June, which would kind of work out nice because we would have had them skip a couple of weeks, and you'll see us do that throughout the year, more so than we normally would. But Brian, I think you all met Brian Bailey, our new park superintendent, has been on top of it along with David, our park foreman. So the company we have seems to be doing a good job now getting caught up. So. Other than that, we are fully staffed now. Once Brian started in April, one other area we've made an adjustment. We've had trouble getting seasonal help over the past few years, and we were only paying $8 an hour, and that's one area where we've made an adjustment. We have raised that to $10 an hour, and then we've gotten a lot more.
What are some examples of your seasonals?
I'm sorry?
What are example job?
These are the ones, they're on our mow crew,
Okay.
day in, day out, and then when they're not mowing, they'll assist full-time staff with
Whatever.
Yeah, but they're out in the field every day, assisting us. Along with, as you'll recall, we still do get minimum security inmates from LCF.
Yeah.
We get 3 or 4 of those to help us, and they are on the mill crew pretty much 100%.
Part-time across the city in all operations is tough to find. Good people, security guard at the swimming pool.
The swimming
I was
pool.
gonna say, 'cause even
That's
at the,
what we
I was
hear
gonna say,
about.
even the pool, the aquatic center has
Everywhere,
that part-time challenge.
department-wide, citywide, it's tough to find good part-time labor.
So that's really it from an operations standpoint. We've got a great staff, park maintenance department. They're all hard workers and dedicated to what they're doing, and they do a great job, especially for the amount that's on their plate. So I love how hard they work, and it's not always the most joyous work. But hey, there's a whole group of guys, and Brian attests to this, that they just keep charging along. So.
I know I drove by the other day and they were mowing, I think it was out to Hawthorne, and it was one of those real hot, humid days, and they were trucking along.
Yeah, we have gone to a heat schedule where we come in, work 6:30 to 3 instead of 7:30 to 4 to help battle some of that.
Right.
And then on those really, really excruciating days, we had one Monday or Tuesday, maybe last week, where it was Tuesday because it was Tuesday.
Miserable.
Yeah. It was just hard to breathe.
Mhm.
And I think you brought the guys in, 1:30, 2 o'clock that day, just get them out of the field and go ahead and service the mowers and then you're ready to go back.
They have access to water and stuff when they're out there.
They have coolers with ice and take as many breaks as you need really on days like that. Because
Right.
That's what safety first and foremost on those days.
Well, like the storms that we've had, we're noticing that there's been a lot of tree damage at the parks on that. Do you have any plans maybe look at replacing the trees as they come? Because that can be expensive, and I want to put some long-range planning on that. But I know it was a little while they came across one of the Triangle Pocket Parks, and they were taking a tree down there, and just right after one of the storms.
Yeah, typically, we'll do that through our legacy tree program. And anytime we get a legacy tree request, sometimes they have a park, the donor has a park in mind and a site in mind, and we'll obviously honor that. Sometimes they say, well, what's your suggestion? And then we'll go to well, where do we lost trees, where do we need trees, and then replace them through that. And it's gotten really popular.
Yeah, that's nice. The Lions Club uses it a lot.
Right, exactly. And we plan a lot of dog parks, we plan just a lot out of Rotary Club plans a lot also along the lines. So that's our main avenue as far as tree replacement is concerned.
Yeah, because I had a citizen ask me about that. Do you have a tree replacement program? I was like, well, this one I know about it. Nothing more formal than that, though.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Not on this part.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to be out here by today. Don't worry about extending the
We got 6 more things here to talk about.
Yeah, that's
That's
only
going to go longer.
At the pace we're going here, I'm not worried.
Riverfront Park?
Riverfront Park, for some reason, our numbers seem to be down this year. A little bit of that is weather related. We've had a lot of storms come in on the weekends where we're booked down there. And I mean, just this past 4th of July, we were booked solid for the entire 3-day weekend. And of course, the storms came in, and everybody called and canceled. We did try this year. We'd had a lot of requests to be open in March. Typically, we open April 1. We had a lot of requests to be open in March, so we tried it, and you get a lot of requests, but then people were all talking their shows. So
Yeah,
it was a failed experiment. But you don't know until you try.
Right.
We had some, but not enough to offset what we pay the manager down there, that's our goal, be able to pay that and the utilities. So we're back to April 1 through October 31st, and I think that's probably where it needs to stay going forward.
How long is this manager been, is this his third year?
He came in the middle of the year. This is his second full year. I think he came at the end of July, because we had somebody mid-season.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, it's his third calendar year. Yeah, he's doing a great job. Charlie Jordan's his name, and he's doing a great job. He spends a lot of hours down there, and you kind of have a face down there, and that helps. That helps with making sure
And he just
right
follows the sun. He does the same thing in like Florida or Alabama.
He actually lives in town here.
Oh,
yes,
he does?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not one that like the ones before that we had that you're referring to that were traveled all over. He actually lives local here, but he does have a fifth wheel trailer that he keeps down there that he stays in sometimes also.
That's nice.
So it is. It's nice to have a presence down there just to make sure proper things are going on down there. Other than that, as far as the infrastructure itself down there, the shower house is still in fantastic shape. You have your typical breakers go out on power pedestals and stuff like that, but nothing major. So everything's going well. So.
Recreation?
Recreation, our leagues have been going well. Some go up, some go down. As you know, we have different runs and events. Some we've let go because they haven't been as popular. With that we're not standing pat. We're trying new items also. Tabor's going to try and we're going to try futsal. I think it's an indoor type of soccer. We're going to try that this winter. It's real popular with the soccer population. I know my daughters have played in it before, and it's really what it is it's indoor soccer on a basketball court, basically. And we're going to try that program. It's pretty popular, and we're going to partner with LSA, and they're going to kind of help us run it, since of course they run our soccer program. So that's a new thing we're going to try in the recreation area. That'll be this winter. It will be on Sundays because it goes concurrently with our basketball programs, which take up all the gym space on Saturdays. Soccer programs, and the indoor soccer in particular, on Sunday is not out of the norm at all. In fact, it's quite normal for them to play on Sunday. So a lot of times you hear people say, oh, they're playing on Sunday. Well, it's pretty normal for soccer and that kind of stuff. So that's one new item we're trying. Another thing Tabor has and I've been working on is increasing our security in the gymnasium down at the community center when we have open gym to help for multiple of things, to help mitigate fighting and items like that, and then any type of vandalism that occurs. You have kids down there dunking, even though the signs right there say no dunking, but it all wears and tears on your equipment. And then also they're always letting people in the back door. So that's something we've tried to move some money around in the budget to give a little bit more part-time for gym supervisor down there. So that's another thing. So Tabor, I don't know if you have anything to add on any of the programs or anything.
The only thing I might add is, I'm sure everybody knows that the American Legion League is no longer, and what we did is we resurrected, we had started the Geiger Showcase League a couple years ago, and we had agreed to drop it because the Legion dropped the age, and so rather than compete with the Legion, we dropped it last year so that all 14-year-olds could play in the Legion. Then that ended up not happening, and so we resurrected it. We made it a 14 to 19-year-old age group. The 19-year-olds had to be high school seniors this year. They couldn't be 19-year-old college kids coming back, and we ended up with 2 teams for our first year, and I'm going to piggyback this on, we'd been trying for 5 years to get some tournaments to come into Leavenworth. Well, we finally got the organization to come down, look at our complex, and so they tried us one time, and they couldn't get to the phone fast enough on Monday to call and say, hey, can we come the next 2 weekends? So we actually had 3 weekends. Well, the other benefit to us was that we were able to get some of those teams to come down and play our Geiger Showcase teams, and we were able to fill out a schedule for the Geiger Showcase League.
That's good.
So I think that's going to really start growing for us next year. And then, pardon?
I said finally.
Oh.
And we've already had inquiries for tournaments this fall also. So I think, like Tabor said, once they saw the facility, I mean, we had a lot of wows, you know, and that's great. And it is a great facility. So it was just a matter of getting here, and it was like pulling teeth, but we got it.
And I think that reflects also back on Parks. What a great job their guys do. You know, keeping the complex up so that when people do come in, you know, they like it. So anyway, those are the only 2 things that I wanted to throw out.
How do the concessions do at Sports Field?
You know, they at times they struggle a little bit. The management of it, there's times where maybe they haven't stayed open as late as they should. And we've had some reports on that, and we've got with the contractor on that. There's you know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of I know they tried selling more food type of items, wraps and stuff like that, and I haven't really got with Terry to see how well that's gone. I don't think it went as well as they had hoped.
Hot dogs, Cokes, and Twizzlers.
Right. Typical ball field fair.
You're not going out there for health food.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
When's the last time a person ordered the salad?
Yeah.
I don't know. When did Julie retire?
Do you have any kale?
If I could interject on that, the one negative to the tournaments coming in, if you've dealt with traveling groups, they literally bring their wagons with them, and it is stacked full of food. And we tried stopping them, and then we decided, you know, it's not worth ruining the goodwill by making them stop. So we did not benefit very much by having the teams in.
Have you talked to them and let them know that we do have a fully capable concession
We'd already done that. They did go to it, but they're so used to having these wagons that they bring and travel with. But the one thing that, if you watch progression of age kids, the younger kids, everybody's there. Everybody wants to see their little kid. Well, our tournaments were high school tournaments. So there weren't a lot of adults who would have been there buying. So now our next target area is young kids, so that there's some organizations that have both, you know, from little all the way up, and try to get, we're going to kind of play one against the other, you know, hey, if you can fill all 4 fields, we want you. If you can't, then we're going to have to go to the first group that can fill them. That way we got little kids in there. And I think that even though they bring their wagons, I think that'll help our concessions on the weekends. So that's another thing that Steve and I have talked about. If we can get a young tournament in there, where they like to stand in line and get their Twizzlers and their ropes and their whatever, so.
By wagons, you mean they're providing them their own kids, their own.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're not selling anything, right?
We're not, yeah. No. I'm just talking about the little red wagon that we used to ride around in.
Oh, okay.
Those kind of wagons, yeah.
Like
No.
a radio flyer.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly what they are. They're
Right.
radio flyers that they're.
Cooler or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little blown.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine, yeah, I just, I thought maybe you were talking about
Yeah.
No.
actually selling.
No. And I will say that this summer has been the easiest summer to date at the gate. We're not being threatened like we were the first year I was here about, well, this is terrible, we shouldn't be having to leave our food outside, but it's been a very, I would say, enjoyable summer at the gate.
People get used to the idea.
Right, right.
Right, right. So we plan to continue that in our leagues then, you know, and
Aquatics.
okay.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Thanks, Tabor.
Yes, sir.
The main issue, and I'm sure you all are aware of this, for both indoor and outdoor aquatics, has been lifeguards and the availability. And we finally turned the corner there, but it took a while. I don't know if we want to talk just indoor community center first, or you want to lump them both together.
You can lump them both together.
Okay, and that's been, and I'll let Nancy talk a little bit more about that. But that has been the biggest challenge is acquiring lifeguards. Her staff has done a great job. We've put in a lot of tools to try and see how we can get more. We had a late season class that was the first week of June. And these were a lot of the kids that were so involved in sports and this, that, and the other that they didn't have time to take a lifeguarding class when we were offering them over spring break, over winter break, stuff like that. And out of that 10, we've got 9, hired 9 directly on. But that's the first week of June. So some other things we've done for recruiting purposes is we lowered the age from 16 to 15. It used to be you could take our lifeguarding class at the age of 15, but we wouldn't hire you till 16. Well, other local areas, the fort and such, you could get hired on at 15. So once they hired, we train them, and then they get hired on somewhere else, and then they're there. So we're kind of didn't make a lot of sense. So we changed that to 15. We think that'll help us going forward. In fact, it helped us immediately.
Like, you can't get jobs anywhere else at that age.
Right,
Good thing.
right. And then once you're in somewhere, you stay there. You know. So.
Did you have much turnover? People started, then they quit on you in a couple weeks in?
We have a lot of people on payroll that don't want to work a lot of hours, or only, and Nancy will only hear from them occasionally on spring break or Christmas break, so you hate to take them off of payroll. So we have a lot more on payroll than we actually have out on deck. But you hate to remove them because they come back from school or whatever and say, hey, can I work over Christmas break? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. We need people for the indoor pool.
But what you started with on the outdoor, on Woolman specifically, when you opened up on Memorial Day weekend, I don't know how many lifeguards you had on the duty roster. There's a dozen there that you rotated through. I don't know what the number is. Then by the 15th of June, did you have those same dozen?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so you didn't lose.
No, we
any.
didn't lose any, no.
So you don't have a problem with turnover during the year. Once if you can get them in, you can keep them, and now it's your competitive pay.
Right. Right, yeah, we oftentimes, we had a big turnover from last summer to this summer.
Sure.
And a lot of that is just natural. They're at
Yeah.
a place in their college career where they're doing internships. They're needing to get another job around lifeguarding because they need to make more money. So we keep them maybe 3 or 4 years, and then they move on. And this year we had a big turnover. We just, as Steve said, we just finished hiring 10. As of tomorrow, we'll have 11 new guards on board. So we're in much better shape. Lifeguard resources are greater, which is good. And it's good timing too, because typically in July, some of the staff that started out with us the end of May like to take family vacations. So we'll have 11 new staff to fill in for those staff who have been working very hard up to this point.
So you pay the same now, Schlitterbahn and the Ford?
Right, we've increased the pay, yes.
They're all in par. It's just,
Right.
you know, they want to just drive here, or they want to drive to Kansas City. Or,
Right. So that, we think that's gonna help us a lot, for not only new recruiting, but people coming back next year. That's gonna help tremendously. And we had been at $7.75 an hour for I don't know how long. So it's the first time we were able to go up on
Would
that.
you go to 8 1/4?
Yes.
That's,
Yeah, so that's going to help us, and so I think we'll be in much better shape starting the year next year, which is our goal.
and I like that you take credit cards out there.
And we take credit cards out there.
That's been a real convenience for our customers.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to 1985.
And that's obviously something where we'd like to get to everywhere at some point, obviously. But yeah, that's been a big benefit. So.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Performing arts.
Okay, that's just pretty much me. I do have, oh, yep, come on up. There we go.
Shave my back for this, okay?
Mary Ann Tennant and Ron Mazia, of course, with the...
Shave your back for this.
They're with the River City Community Players, in case you have any questions regarding any of the shows. Of course, we'll be starting phase 1 of our upgrades at the Performing Arts Center, looking for that to go out to bid probably the first week of August, and it will be addressing the cooling system. So we're yay is right, yeah, and so we're anticipating construction in the October through November timeframe, which will work out well. We shouldn't be needing air conditioning at that time. And then phase 2 will begin right after the first of the year, and that's the replacement of the boiler system. So we'll get that out to bid, and by the time construction starts on that, we should be done through winter.
Or the barricades down there in anticipation of this, or?
The barricades down there we've had some loose pieces of stucco fall off the side of the building, and I think it's not unlike something that has happened in the past. I noticed some patching and repairs on the northeast corner. I think occurred clear back when Bill Katzenberger was here, and they did some work. So we had just some small little pieces fall off of there, but we went ahead and put barricades to keep people away from being close to the building, just in case. And I'm in the process of having contractors look at that to see what we can do for a Band-Aid type of fix, just to make it so it's safe for right now.
If you got an exposed hole where you go down to the soft brick, you want to get it taken care of as soon as possible.
Right.
Before water gets back in there, you'll delaminate all sides.
Right, and I think as I looked at it, as I met the contractor on site, as we looked at it, it looked like that's exactly what had caused some of the problem, and we're gonna look at some of the flashing up on top of the rooftop. It looked like maybe water got in behind up top, and it's caused some of that, exactly what you're talking about. So that's the reason for the barricades. There's nothing big or anything like that. The huge chunks that are going to fall off, but even that would hurt. That would hurt. So that's the reason.
It would be a Pokemon.
So that's the reason for those right now is we look at seeing what we can have done to at least shore it up for the short term.
Okay, well, we are in rehearsals for You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and we're very excited about that going along. And we are just finished auditioning for another show, Miracle on South Division Street. It's a small cast, but it should be a good show. And then we're gearing up for our big fall musical. We've never done a fall musical because we changed the dates for the year. We're doing Addams Family, the musical. So that one should be very, 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 very great directors coming aboard. We have a lot of talk from other theaters who are interested in coming to audition. So we'll get a lot out of town people. So we're a little excited about that one. And then next year's still, we try to plan 2 years in advance for all of our shows. So it's all fun. I'd love to see. I know some of you come, some of you don't. So I'd love to see you. You've been on stage.
What?
You've been on stage, haven't you, for us?
I have not.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I have not.
Oh, that's
Been on
right.
some
You
shows.
judged a contest. That's
Maybe
right.
I judged a contest.
And we're having a jazz show.
We have the jazz show.
fall.
We have Henry's her last name. She's local, but she's been out there in New York, and she's coming to sing for us. We had Angela Hagebach and her group, the Book of Gaia. That was tremendous. It was tremendous. So this next one is going to be even better. So we're real excited to keep that performing that type of arts into the community.
Yeah, that was really good. That's something a little different, and it was really, really good.
So this is our 4th year doing that. So I'm real excited about that. All right. You're welcome.
Community center? Well, it's sure nice to be open. That's just putting it mildly. Our room rentals are through the roof this year, and Tammy's doing an excellent job. And I think we're in the over 70% of projected revenues on room rentals already, and here we are in July. So it's really fantastic, and a lot of it goes to Tammy and the staff down there, and the way they treat customers and take care of them and set the place up, and can't give more kudos to the staff. And of course the building sells itself, of course, but you gotta do your part as the staff, and they definitely do. So.
She goes for the guys hauling the chairs and hauling the tables.
Yes.
Just back and forth.
Using the whole thing with the gym too.
Yeah.
The chamber event there, that was very nice, and the other event before that.
Yeah, and I think one thing, you bring that up, Nancy, I think one thing I'm going to look at for the CIP is some noise dampening panels for that gymnasium. You see that a lot in places, and the acoustics in there. If you've been to any of those,
Yeah.
you know the acoustics, are not good at all. So that's one thing.
Playing tennis in there, we can't hear each other.
Right,
from
right.
across the room.
Yeah. So that's something, and I've never done anything like that before, so I don't even know what the ticket is on an item like that. But I'm going to find out, and I think that would be a huge upgrade, and probably sell that room even more.
Yeah.
So.
How do you think Stowe Factory's lofts place is going to affect you, or have you seen anything yet?
I did go to the grand opening, and it's a beautiful facility.
Right.
Certainly, it's considerably more expensive than to rent the
They're
room.
going for like $3,500 or something?
Yes, that's my understanding, $3,500, and
We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah.
yeah. And then, I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge that they don't have the same amenities that we have. The community center is very easy to cater out of with our kitchen.
Yes.
And I think that may be an issue too.
Are they putting in a kitchen?
I don't
Or just
know.
warming?
Just what they've got is.
Warming stations. I know they're building a stage. They didn't have the stage built yet. How many, if I want the big room, I want it for an event for one night, just ballpark, how much is that? Just to rent it?
On cost?
Yes.
It's by the hour, so it depends on how many hours, but and how many hours of decorating and several other things, but maybe $500 a night.
Yeah, as opposed, yeah.
Yeah, it's $55 an hour for the review room.
There's a 4-hour minimum.
4-hour
Yeah.
minimum.
My
And
niece
then,
is doing her wedding there in the fall. It's
Yeah.
gonna be,
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Yeah, I heard what they're charging, and, they get it more power to them. They may have some conferences or something there.
well, we had a wedding, our biggest wedding to date last weekend, where they had the review room and the other 2 upstairs rooms, and it was 430
430
this
people.
past weekend. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forefather of the bride.
Right. I don't know, did anybody get to see the new, or notice the new windows when you're down there? Those look great, so.
Yes, they really do.
Little improvements that we're doing on that, and then we're replacing the railing out front. In fact, we'll bring it before you to a commission meeting just to kind of run the concept by you here in a couple of weeks for what Tammy and myself have been working on. It's that guardrail out front. We're also going to be upgrading the security system. We have money in the CIP to upgrade the security system, which I know we've talked about before and is long overdue. So making a lot of good improvements on the inside to match what we've done on the outside. And that, of course, it was nice to have that stone replacement on the front done, and it looks fantastic. And
Yeah.
How many square feet is the Riverview room, men's and women's waiting room? Ballpark?
The Riverview room's about 3,600 square feet. The women's waiting room, I think, is about 1,500, and the men's waiting room's a little bit bigger, so maybe 1,700.
So a little bit smaller than that one down there combined, 1,000 square feet smaller or something.
What is that one?
7,850.
Okay.
Okay, I was just curious where it was.
Yeah, that's closer to the size of the gym.
Yeah.
The gym's about 7,000 square feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we're not sure exactly. I mean, I don't know if there's probably a special type of event, maybe that they'll take away from us. I mean, we're not sure. We're not sure what that is, and I guess time will tell on that.
I think it'll be fine.
We think so too. It's such a unique venue,
Yeah.
you know.
And your staff is great, working with Tammy, working with the staff there, and the people in the front, in the cage, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
They're always very helpful.
We have a great staff. And one of the other things, particularly with Stove Loft, they have the same challenges with the sound that the gym does.
Sure, yeah.
So-
Acoustics
I
there are
think
tough.
that is an issue with another venue that I won't name here, but the sound system is that's really important for an event.
Yes.
And if you can't have it, if you can't have a good sound system, then a lot of times I won't recommend them on boards and stuff.
That's really why it would be good, even if they're just temporary panels or something that you move in,
For downstairs.
yeah, to get a soft surface in there somehow to help the acoustics with that. Yeah, I think then it would be more, because you can kind of see then what you can do with the decorating, the camouflage, the gymnasium look of it, and, and make better use, for those larger events and that, so.
Right.
Anything else?
Community center. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tammy.
That's all of them, isn't it?
Well,
Oh, we already talked about
Yeah, we already talked
Yeah,
about that.
we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's got you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Carla? Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Well, my budget isn't nearly as exciting as police and fire and recreation, but I'll try to be interesting. A few changes that we made this year. Haymarket Square is no longer under the city clerk's office, so that function was transferred to Park and Recreation. So that those budget items are out of my department. One of the biggest changes that we put in there is we needed $30,000 for a possible primary election next year. We may not need it, depending on the number of candidates there are, but I checked with the county clerk.
What,
And-
if there's 7 or more candidates or 10 or more candidates?
It would take 10 or more. There's
Okay,
3
so
times the
we'll go
number
through.
of
Okay,
seats
so
open.
I know
so
that was in flux
yeah.
over the last couple of
So
years.
our
Okay.
magic number would be, we can have 9
if we hit 10, then we would have to have a primary.
Okay.
Okay.
And then if we have 10, we whittle it down to 9, or will there be
If-
9 on the budget or on the ballot?
I
Or would it go
believe
down to
what
6 then?
happens is it goes down to 6. So if there's if there's 10 or more, it goes to a primary, and then the top
Yeah.
6. So
So
2
ahead,
for
yeah,
each
that
open
goes-
seat,
yeah.
so then the top 6 would,
But if there's 9, no primary, then it'll be,
there would be 9 on the
9 will
ballot.
fight it out,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if there are others having a primary also next year, then that would be split amongst any other municipalities that might be having a primary. But we didn't want to take that chance.
Other
you know.
school board.
Anybody else having a primary, or if, I don't know, if Baser was, I don't know when their elections are. But if anybody else was having a primary during that same time, but if we were the only ones requiring one,
Yeah.
then we would have to share the whole, or we would have to bear the
Bear the
whole
whole
burden
cost,
of
yep.
it. So that may or may not,
Right.
we may not use it at all,
Right,
but we have to budget it just in case we do, because we want to take that hit if we do
sure.
have to have it. And then one of the other things that we changed is, last year, the cost for all the copiers within the city, with the exception of just a couple, all went to the clerk's department. I mean, that was even police department, service center, park and recreation, and it just didn't make sense that it was all in the clerk's budget. The intent was just to put everything in City Hall under that budget, but it gives just a truer cost of what each department, their expenses are, so we moved those back to each department. So that's where you'll see a big difference in last year or 2016 and 2017, where there's a big decrease, as we've just been moved out to those other departments.
Every 5 years, we have a bright idea to either consolidate
Consolidate.
stuff or go back out. And then in 5 years, we're gonna say, hey, it just didn't make sense to have it anymore, so we consolidated.
It only took 1 year to go. That wasn't a good idea.
We
So-
consolidated.
Was that finance director from a few years ago that
Yeah,
consolidated?
that guy, that bum.
So we did that. The only concern I would have in the budget amount is in my postage budget. Postage just continues to creep up each year. I had requested 40,000, it got cut a little bit. It's attributed to a couple of things. One of them just being the number of notices that code enforcement has to send out each year. They have to send out, certified and a regular mailing for every time they send something out.
Now, what's that dictated by?
That's by, I believe that's by statute that they have to send it out that way.
State statute or our statute?
No, I believe it's a state statute is what says you have to send it out.
We asked about that a few years back too, could we not send in certified? I know we talked about that, and Karen came back and said, no, we can't.
You might verify that. I mean, I could go back and read the statute as well. We could verify that with Julie. It could be that it was just a best practice that other cities have said, you know what, people don't pick up their certified mail, but if you send them something to their regular mail, because I think certified you have to do. I think we may have opted to send it to the home address just in regular mail, just because of a best practice. Cities have said, hey, you know what, they might not pick up their certified mail, but they'll open something else, and now they've got the notification.
Yeah.
So I can verify that.
People that game the
whether-
system to know what these
Oh, yeah.
certified letters are, so I'm not gonna accept it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
So
accept it, then you say-
yeah, I can verify if that's, if we're just doing that as a best practice or not.
What does a certified letter cost to send out? $10? All right.
Three, it's just under $4.
Okay.
Yeah, if it doesn't have any other weight to it. If
Yeah,
it's just
not
normal,
just regular.
a few sheets of paper, it's, the
Yeah.
basic is $3.96, I think.
And if you had to make a wild guess on the ones that you certify, that you send out certified for code enforcement type stuff, what percentage are not picked up because they get returned to you? If they're,
I would say, based off of what we send for code enforcement, just knowing that the clerk's office sends out the billings,
right,
I would say we probably get 85% of them back.
so, yeah. that again, and they know exactly what's in there.
And a lot of them, it's just they've moved, they're no longer there, and
Yeah.
we don't have any other current
Yeah.
address for them. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that dictate it, but some of them just are like, I'm not gonna pick it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, there's gotta be a way around that. Can we mail the certified letter first?
We usually mail them at the
So they don't get
same.
the warning?
Yeah, we
in the
usually,
mail?
yeah, we could, I don't know.
Because
Yeah, I don't know.
if I get one in the mail,
Yeah.
and then I get a notice that I've got it certified down there, and you know what
Yeah.
the system is.
Well, we do what's called a certified list of mailing that we take to the post office, and even if it's just a regular 46.5 cents is what we pay.
Right.
Postage, we go over to the post office with a list of those that we're sending, and they stamp and certify, and we hand it to them over the counter, and they certify that those went into the system as well. So we can go back and say to somebody, we mailed this on this date, the post office certified that they took it into the mail system.
Right.
If you didn't get it, we can certify that we did our part. So it doesn't have to, even with a regular postage envelope, we have that proof that we
Right.
sent that.
Proof for us, rather than.
Yeah.
If you're getting 85% return, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But we may be required to do it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got, and we've got that as far as postage, and then one of the other things that I think has driven this up a lot is with CVB being in-house and being more active, which is a great thing, and doing a lot more mailing. A lot of the things that they mail is a 9x6 envelope, and that is just in it by itself. Even if it doesn't have any weight to it, it's 96 cents to mail each one of those. And if it's got more than that, then it's over $1. And if it's got even more weight to it, then we have to mail it as a package or a flat, which it can be $3 or $4 to mail those. Again, it's a great thing that they're doing, getting those out, but that causes our postage to go up.
We gotta find a way to track that, because they should be paying for that.
That's what I was gonna say. They,
It'd be like a copy machine, sounds like you're.
And we do have a way to do that. Our postage meter does have where we can set up accounts, and so that anything we mail for CVB, we can put that into a certain amount.
We'll make sure. Yeah,
And so,
we have postage in the. Yeah, we just you need to bill us.
I can do that. You were reading my mind. So I can implement that today, or.
Don't go
whenever you would like.
retroactive. Yeah.
So, that's really the most exciting thing I can talk about.
Well, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you.
Lana?
Lana, do you want to give a little bit of context to what I brought up last night at the commission as far as the plan design change for health insurance?
For benefits.
For benefits.
And I did bring some of that information and just kind of looking at, currently we have, as you're all aware of, the single employees pay nothing for the base plan coverage. This is something that has been brought up probably over the last at least 3 years, if not 4, to the employee council, that it's probably going to be changing. With the increases that we've had, the city just can't continue to bear 100% of the expense. So in looking at where we're at currently with the 3-tier design, we have the 80%, the 90% buy-up, and the 90% high deductible. In going to a 5% employee share on single coverage for the base plan, so the 80% plan, they would still be responsible for the buy-up, difference to the 90%, and they would get the discount, which is how we've implemented it now, of the cost of, in essence, 95% of the 80% plan applied towards the high deductible plan. In doing that, it reduces the city's expense almost a little over 2%. So by doing a 5% increase to the employee-only base plan, increases the employee-only cost to roughly $40 a month is what they would be responsible for. And by doing so, reduces a little over about 2.25% for the city share, going from $244,000, almost $245,000 a month to $239 a month. So it does have a pretty significant impact to the city expense, whereas $40 a month, yes, it's more than obviously they've been paying, but it's not a significant increase for employee-only coverage. The high deductible plan under that design would still be $0 for single coverage. Again, a $1,500 deductible versus a $500 deductible. So if they're using it for the inpatient, the outpatient testing, anything other than a copay, they are going to have a higher out-of-pocket at the doctor's. But they do still have a zero-cost plan option available under that proposed tiering of the 5% share.
How many employees do we have? 230?
Oh, total?
260.
About right around 270.
And how many, 95% of employees take insurance? 70%? Because I know some of them have spouses.
90, roughly.
90, about
Yeah,
90%
we have a
of our employees.
pretty large.
Yeah.
We've got, right now, we've got 53 of them on the 80% base plan single coverage. We've got 74 on the 90% buy-up single coverage.
How much
and
more does that cost them?
That costs them $54.40 a month right now.
Plus the 40?
Plus the 40.
94.
So it would be an
$95
additional
a month.
$40 for whether
Yeah, okay.
they're currently on the buy-up or not. It's an extra $40 a month.
Okay.
And then 4 that are currently under the high deductible plan for single.
Lana, is it still illegal, or I guess that'd be the right term for it, for municipalities to merge
Join.
together to get a lower rate? And get a
In
bigger
essence,
group?
yes. The combining of for benefits only purposes, it has to be for something other than combining to reduce or spread the risk over insurance. So there has to be other pooled, whether it's expenses, whether it's services, whether it's something that ties it other than just strictly pooling for benefits purposes.
If we did come out and say we could double the size of our group or triple the size of the group, if we came up with something,
It's hit and miss. It
How much-
really is.
how much do you think could be saved?
It could actually hurt us, depending upon the other group.
Well, you won't pick and choose your group.
Well, if we can start choosing things, then.
We want them all
choosing,
65 or
then-
older when they're on Medicare. No, I was just curious.
It really, I mean, and we're in the same boat. If we were to look at, if that was allowed, and we were to look at going out to market and saying, hey, we're interested in doing this, truthfully and honestly, they would look at our experience over the last couple of years and go, you're kind of risky. I'm not sure we want to do that. Same with any other group that you went into. They may have, last year may have been great, but if you look at the 5 years
Yeah.
overall, and they were running 90% experience rate as well, that's going to hurt us
Well,
because,
if you got 5 years with a good experience, you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
number
Bound
6
to-
or number
bound to
7,
come
you're
around,
going to get
yeah.
hit, so.
so I mean, it's kind of that rolling the dice either way. Even if we did, we're able to grow the pool, it's not necessarily saying it's going to help our experience and lower our costs.
If I go to the doctor January 2nd, get a $100 bill and I'm on the base plan, how much
$20
from the
copay.
beginning, I don't have a meet my deductible, first
If you're
500's
just-
out of pocket and then.
For office visits, no. Our plan is
Okay.
designed for regular office visits as a copay. If you're going in for an annual physical, there is no copay, so that
Right.
is covered once a year, 100%.
Right.
It's when you get into the inpatient stays, your outpatient diagnostic, your advanced imaging, MRIs, CAT scans, that type of thing, that's when your deductible and your coinsurance comes into
If I
play.
go to the emergency room January 2nd, have a
$200.
$2,000 bill, 200, okay,
That's also a copay. ER
Yeah.
is set up as a copay.
okay.
So 200 for the base and the 90% buy-up, and believe it or not, the high deductible is $150 copay on ER. So it's a little cheaper.
Yeah, okay.
But they send you the next day for, as a result of that ER visit, they send you the next day in for MRIs or a procedure, then you're going to have deductible and coinsurance on that. But regular
Costs some real money.
regular office physician visits, $20 copay, specialists are $40.
Yeah.
And children, dependent children, under 19, no copay for primary care office.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
It's a good plan.
Doesn't count for specialists. It is. It still is a very rich plan.
It is a good plan,
Even
guys.
with the 80% plan as the base plan with a $500 deductible is still a very
Yeah.
rich plan
Mm-hmm.
for what is
What's max
covered.
out of pocket on?
I'm sorry?
What's max out of pocket on the 80%?
The 80% is 2,000
2,000
individual, 4,000
that's a-
family.
That's a,
The 90% buy-up is 1,500, and the 90% high deductible, I believe, is 2,500. Again, double it for family, but that's single out of pocket.
those are very, very,
Mhm.
much nicer than the corporate world
Oh,
offers
yes.
right now.
Yes,
Yeah,
and even
by
the
far.
marketplace, most of those for the lower level
Yeah.
coverage, you're talking
Yeah,
$6,000.
4 to
Mhm.
5 out of pocket before you hit your stop loss.
Right.
Yeah, so these are very enticing insurance plans for employees.
Mhm.
But they're very expensive too.
Yes, they are, and getting more so, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And again, and that's where, like I said, over the last several years, talking with the employee council, employee shares, single coverage, we're gonna have to look at start putting something out there, or we're gonna have to look at doing away with the 90% buy-up and not having that $250 deductible plan anymore, and just using the 80% and the high deductible, something to offset the increases. Because our experience, unfortunately, over the last several years has not diminished to the point where we're not gonna have right at the double-digit increases.
Right.
So that's kind of where that's at. And again, employee council has been advised, sent out an email kind of outlining where we were at and what we were anticipating, and gave them fair warning.
Yeah.
We've been discussing for this for the last 3 years, and it's probably here for 17. So they have been given notice. I'm hoping they've shared it with their departments and kind of spread the word, but that's where we're at as far as looking at being able to continue with the same plans and be able to afford the increases that we're going to have.
Any other questions?
Outside of that, is there any other issues as far as business?
I was going to say my regular budget is pretty standard year after year, doesn't really change a whole lot. There's a few things that I'll probably address with Paul, but as far as just some slight changes and looking at some differences, but it's pretty much service driven as far as the EAP, the counseling services, or outsourcing of Infinisource for our COBRA administration, the medical and drug screens for pre-employment as well as post-accident, as well as our randoms that we do. So a lot of my budget is outside of my control.
Thank you very much, Lana.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's take 5.
Thank you. You gotta stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.